This week on The Communicators, a discussion on the passage of new net neutrality rules at the FCC, which would affect how content travels over the Internet. Our guests are Gigi Sohn of the consumer group Public Knowledge and Dean Garfield of the Information Technology Industry Council.
Well, as you can imagine, there was a lot of reaction from all quarters following the FCC's action on net neutrality at their December 21st meeting. And that's our discussion topic on The Communicators this week. First, to kick off our discussion, here's a little bit of FCC Chairman Julius Genachowski discussing the goals of what the FCC did yesterday.
Today we're adopting a set of high-level rules of the road that strikes the right balance between these imperatives. We're adopting a framework that will increase certainty for businesses, investors, and entrepreneurs. In key respects, the interests of edge innovators, the entrepreneurs creating Internet content services and applications, their interests, the interests of broadband providers, and of American consumers are aligned. Innovation at the edge catalyzes consumer demand for broadband. Consumer demand spurs private investment and innovation in faster broadband networks, and faster networks sparks ever cooler innovation at the edge. I believe our action today will foster an ongoing cycle of massive investment, innovation, and consumer demand, both at the edge and in the core of broadband networks. Our action will strengthen the Internet job creation engine. Our action will advance our goal of having America's broadband networks be the freest and the fastest in the world.
Well, joining us here on the set is Dean Garfield, who is President and CEO of the Information Technology Industry Council. Mr. Garfield, if you would, tell us what you think of what the FCC did yesterday and tell us about the ITIC.
Thanks for having us here and having me here. I think yesterday's decision on the order was an important step forward in striking a balance between two competing but not conflicting principles. On the one hand, innovation and the transformative potential that we've seen on the Internet for innovation, and then two, for investment and bringing certainty so that those who are investing in the Internet infrastructure can have some certainty about the regulatory framework and have some assurance on a return on their investment. The members of ITI span the gamut in the information and communications technology sector. We've got 49 members that really are the global leaders in information and communications technology.
Well, Dean Garfield, Meredith Atwell Baker, one of the Republican commissioners, in an op-ed in the Washington Post recently, basically said that what the FCC did yesterday was a solution looking for a problem and that it wasn't necessary.
In general, our members run the gamut in this sector and think that the Internet has been an incredibly transformative medium, and that there is a need to ensure that that transformative nature is protected. And so I think it's perfectly appropriate for the FCC to step in and try to set a framework that brings certainty both to consumers and to businesses. And so I don't think it's an overreach. In fact, I think what the chairman did was to try to strike a balance. And striking a balance, you always, to use a colloquialism, you piss people off. But I think the fact that there were people on all sides of this issue who spoke up for and against is suggestive of the fact that it was really striking a balance in a middle road approach, a pragmatic approach.
Well, somebody who is on another side of that issue is Gigi Sohn, who is the president and co-founder of Public Knowledge. Same opening question. What did you think of what the FCC did this week? And tell us about Public Knowledge.
Well, I'll agree with Dean. It was a step forward, but it was not nearly a step forward enough. And to the extent that these rules were supposed to bring regulatory certainty, they will not do that. Because instead of adopting strong, clear rules, the FCC has adopted vague rules and weak rules. And it's not going to lead to certainty. What it's going to lead to is gamesmanship by the telephone and cable companies that provide Internet access and who are supposed to be regulated here. It's not going to bring any certainty to the tech sector because until the FCC actually enforces these rules and gets a complaint in front of them and adjudicates and interprets the rules, nobody's really going to know what's going on. We had asked for 3 very simple changes to the chairman's original proposal. One was to strengthen the wireless rules. Wireless internet access and wireline internet access are treated differently. Wireline is more regulated. Wireless, which is really the future of internet access, particularly for poor people and people of color and rural people, was given less protection. We wanted there to be a presumption against paid prioritization. That being, we don't want the telephone and cable companies to force Google or Yahoo or DirecTV or Dish Network to actually pay for priority service, better quality of service, faster service. We don't want that. There should be a presumption against that. The third thing we wanted was for the FCC to close a loophole that would have allowed broadband internet access providers like telephone and cable companies to provide so-called managed or specialized service. In other words, a service that would give you just the top 20 websites in a way that would evade the open internet rules. So we asked for 3 very small changes. Unfortunately, the chairman decided not to give them to us, and therefore we're disappointed with the way the rules came out.
What is Public Knowledge?
Public Knowledge is a consumer advocacy organization. We work on broadband policy issues and intellectual property issues, and we seek to protect consumer rights to a democratic and open internet ecosystem where they have control.
Yeah, I think Gigi's comment speaks to 2 things. One, the complexities of these issues, and then 2, how far we've come in such a limited period of time. I think if we were having this conversation 5 years ago, the list that Gigi went through on the points of disagreement would have been a lot longer. And I think the chairman's statement from yesterday that you heard at the beginning and the order and framework reflects the fact that we're now at a point where we're in agreement on probably 85% of the issues. And this is going to be a continuing conversation. Yesterday's decision and the 3 commissioners who voted in favor of the order didn't end the conversation, but I think it gave us an opportunity to begin focusing on applying them and continuing to innovate and continuing to get investment in the internet.
Well, again,
Do you agree that you're 85% in agreement with?
We've been 85% in agreement with the telephone and cable companies for about 5 years, but it's that 15% which is really, really critical. And the wireless piece is particularly important because, as I said previously, that's the future of the internet. So if
Why do you think they were treated differently?
Well, the chairman believes that wireless is a more formative technology and that it deserves more regulatory leeway. And I don't necessarily disagree with him on that point, but I just think he gave them too much regulatory leeway. So one of the exceptions to the net neutrality rules is something called reasonable network management. A network provider should have the ability to manage its network to ensure that it operates efficiently. I don't have any problem with that. And I don't have any problem with giving a wireless carrier more leeway in how it manages its network. But that's not the same thing as saying that a wireless carrier can block applications unless they're Skype or Google Voice, which were clearly in the rules as being prohibited. They cannot block those kind of applications, and it cannot block websites. So those were the 2 things in the, in the rules. But it's essentially giving carte blanche to the wireless carriers to block things like Sling Media or Netflix, discriminate against them. And that's where we say that's not necessary to give them that kind of leeway. Yes, give them more leeway in how they ensure that their networks run more efficiently, but don't allow them to favor certain applications over others. That's the essence of network neutrality.
I think if you